Hello everyone, my name is Stacy. I'm Senior Community Manager from Postgres Professional, and today we'll explain to you how a Microsoft Azure user can get access to advanced Postgres features via Azure, virtual machines, and containers. We will also take a deep dive into the Azure virtual machines with Roman Lazarev from Microsoft. The recording of today's webinar and the slide decks will become available shortly after the event. We expect your questions to appear on the YouTube chat during the talk. Please be sure that our speakers will answer them after their presentations. I am glad to introduce my colleague Alexey Shishkin, Cloud Architect at Postgres Professional. Hello, Alexey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Anastasia. Welcome to Postgres Pro on Azure 2022 webinar. My name is Alexey Shishkin. I'm working for Postgres Professional for about 5 years. And today we will talk about Postgres database on Azure again. We will discuss what options the customer have if they need Postgres database on Azure. I will also tell you about what's new in Postgres Pro. And at the end, there will be a short demo how to create Postgres Pro database in Azure container in Kubernetes environment. So let's go ahead. Brief introduction of Postgres Professional. The company was established in 2015 and now is a key contributor to Postgres community. Every year, Postgres Professional delivers many commits to PostgreSQL database, both as bug fixes and as new features. Postgres Professional also develops its own private PostgreSQL fork, Postgres Pro, to meet the customer's needs. Postgres Professional provides professional services like database technical support, database migration, database audit, performance tuning, as well as education and certification for PostgreSQL. We publish Postgres Pro offers on Azure Marketplace because Microsoft Azure is a world-class cloud. It provides many services for the customers. It grows very fast and attracts many vendors, partners, and customers. So this is a good partnership for us. Azure also provides easy-to-use interface, well-developed documentation, and adheres to the highest security standards. There are a lot of PostgreSQL offers on Azure Marketplace. Most of them use bring your own license scheme and provide some add-on value to PostgreSQL database. Postgres Pro includes all functionality of PostgreSQL database and has additional features on top of it. We provide 2 editions of Postgres Pro database on Azure Marketplace, Postgres Pro Standard. It uses bring your own license scheme, and Postgres Pro Enterprise. It has license fee. So the customers can start small with Postgres Pro Standard and grow further up to the Postgres Pro Enterprise if they need advanced features. With Postgres Pro Standard, the customers get early access to new features and fixes. Postgres Pro Standard also has some useful extensions included, like PG Pro Backup, PG Pro Power, Mamansu, PG Bouncer, etc. So you can have a look at complete list of Postgres Pro Standard features on our site. Postgres Pro Enterprise is useful when advanced features are required. There is a long list of enhancements and additional extensions of Postgres Pro Enterprise. So let's have a look at some of them. Key features of Postgres Pro Enterprise. First of all, it's online database minor version upgrade. It allows to decrease database availability SLA for maintenance if you upgrade your minor version of database. The next one is PG Pro Power extension, which is designed to discover most resource-intensive activities in your database. It enables you to generate workload reports, and which can be helpful for troubleshooting database performance issues. The next one is restoration of corrupted write-ahead log data from in-memory well buffers. It provides protection against some types of data corruptions we had in our practice that may occur because of hardware faults. The next one is well-known backup and recovery manager, which is called PG Pro Backup. It provides lots of features, for example, incremental backup, automatic data consistency check, parallel task executions, and many more. You can find all of them in our documentation site. Compressed file system, or CFS, enables page-level compression of database. Compression ratio depends on the data types, of course, but what we have from our fields, it's about from 3 to 5 times. PG Pro Scheduler extension provides background workers for database task scheduling. You can schedule, monitor, and manage your job inside of database using this feature. Sorry. Adaptive query optimization extension improve cardinality estimation, and it allows you to optimize execution plan and consequently speed up query execution. The two other features are 64-bit transactions ID, which allows you not to hit the wraparound issues if you have lots of transactions in your database, and support for autonomous transactions, which can be useful for designing your applications for database. And the new features which are included in the latest version of both Postgres Pro Enterprise and Standard are enhanced with security features. PG Pro Audit for detailed logging of various security events, and advanced authentication policies. They provide effective password management and access control in your database. On Azure, you can run Postgres Pro database in virtual machine, inside of Docker container, and in Azure container, either as part of Azure container instances, which is ACI, or as part of Azure Kubernetes Service, which is AKS. On Azure, we use CentOS 7 for VM offers and Debian 10 for all kinds of offers. We have all existing Postgres Pro versions available on Azure Marketplace, beginning with the version 9.5 till the latest version, number 14. Postgres Pro offers on Azure can be found via either Azure Marketplace or Azure Portal, or using Azure Command Line interface. So you can use whatever you need for your job. Some more details about content of our Azure offers. For virtual machines, we use Zabbix server as a monitoring tools because it's quite popular among our customers. We also provide Zabbix compatible Mamansu monitoring agent. Virtual machine image has also useful Linux utilities installed, as well as latest operating system updates and security fixes applied. We use the same Docker file for both container and Docker offers. In addition, we provide sample YAML configuration files to run Azure container either in Azure container instances or Azure Kubernetes service. You can look at these YAML files in Azure site. We also provide a quick start guide for our Azure offers and the features we have for these offers. Here are the links for them. You can find them useful, I hope. So we highly appreciate your feedback about our Azure offers and services. Please do contact us in case of questions or issues. And I would like to show you a short demo. It will be about how to create Postgres Pro database in Azure Container as part of the Azure Kubernetes service. So, first step of this demo is to create Kubernetes cluster, which is already created because it's a time-consuming task, and I decided to save your time. So let's go to the step number 2. Let's have a look at the running Kubernetes cluster. First of all, we will use Azure command to show the properties of AKS. And the second command is kubectl, which shows information from Kubernetes cluster perspective. You can see that for simplicity, I use single node cluster. So let's go to the next step. We will set up environment variables to ease our life a bit. The first one is the name of Azure Container Registry. The second one is an ID of image, container image. The third one is tag of the image. And the last one is the name of Azure Container Registry server. We will use these environment variables to fill in with a YAML configuration file. So as I told you before, this sample configuration file is available on Azure site. Let's grab it and look at them. So you can see that our environment variables we defined before is used here, which is login server, image ID, and tag ID. We will use container port of 5433. So creation of cluster is really simple. It's only one command. If you have a configured YAML configuration file, so let's try to create it. So it's done. Let's go to the next step and show AKS deployment. So it's you can see that pod status is already running. So we have a standard cluster IP service and have one deployment, one replica set, which I decided to use for simplicity. The next step, we can have to look at some more details of these Kubernetes entities. You can see that the time it takes to pull image is really short, about 5 seconds. And the time to run container in AKS is also small, from less than 10 seconds. So we started it at 36 seconds and starting at 44 seconds. Let's have a look at the next entity, which is service. It's default service, so there is no useful information here. Let's go to the deployment entity. It's also more or less simple, and replica set as well. So let's go to the next step to expose our database service to the outside world. For that, we also have a sample YAML configuration file on Azure side. Let's have a look at it. So it's more or less simple. And let's expose database service to the world and have some time for external IP to be addressed, to be assigned to our service. So you can hear it's been assigned very quickly. We will use it in the port 5534 for external connection. Let's go to the next step. Let's define external IP address as an environment variable as well. Here we are, and try to connect to our database from outside of the cluster. We will use our password we defined for our Kubernetes cluster properties. So we can have a look at the SQL query response, which is Postgres Pro Standard 13.1.1. That's what we asked for. So let's go to the next step of our demo. Let's try to connect to the pod. First of all, we would like to have its name as a variable and connect to a kubectl command. So here we are. We have successfully connected to our pod. Can have a look at file structures. Etc. etc. Let's have run this simple query, SQL query. So it works. Okay. That's the end for our short demo. The last step would be to delete Kubernetes cluster and all resources associated with it. And I'm ready to invite Roman Lazarev from Microsoft because he is our next speaker.
I think we also have a couple of questions. And
okay.
Yeah, and you can go ahead and answer them. The first question is about how much does it cost to use Postgres Pro database on Microsoft Azure. So can you tell us a few words about the pricing?
Yeah. So as I told you before, our Postgres Pro Standard uses bring your own license scheme. So if you are going to use Postgres Pro Standard, you only pay for Azure infrastructure. And if you need advanced features of Postgres Pro Enterprise, you have to pay both for Azure infrastructure as well for Postgres license. Postgres Pro Enterprise license is 14 cents per 1 core per 1 hour for virtual machine, and is uses the same bring your own license scheme for Azure Container. And for virtual machine offers, customers have 1 month of trial period. So you can, during this period, you can find out if you need these advanced features of Postgres Pro Enterprise, or you can stay on Postgres Pro Standard offer. The next question, please.
Well, the next question is more specific, and I think it is more for Roman because it is about Azure. So I would say that we need to invite Roman to our virtual stage and let him proceed with our today's virtual event. Can you hear us, Roman?
Hi, folks. Yeah, I think I can. I'm reading the questions on YouTube, but I'm not seeing the question that is addressed specifically to me. If you can help me understand what it is that the person is interested in, I'll try to cover that.
Yeah, this is sounds like this. Do you support or have Azure on OSI?
What is OCI? Is it the OpenShift container instance? Or what does OCI stand for?
I think we need to ask the author of the question, and my suggestion is for you to just proceed with the talk until we get the abbreviation explained in the chat.
Okay, good. Because I think that might have to do actually with OpenShift, and for OpenShift, which is a container platform, I would believe your solution would probably run on that, but you might need to do some technical validation and actually confirm that for them. So hi, my name is Roman. I work at Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for the past 6 years. I do a couple of things there. I'm a cloud solution architect for infrastructure, and I'm also leading a team of CSAs for Russia. So the topic for today is supposed to be the resilience of the virtual machines, or the resilience of the infrastructure that is used for running Postgres Pro on Azure. So I'll cover some of the basic building blocks of the resilience and high availability on Azure, and hopefully that will be useful for you when you build out your own infrastructure. So just a high-level overview for Azure. It's a cloud provider that is built on the infrastructure that is located in more than 60 physical locations around the world. With it, it's not just a single data center, as you will see, but it could be multiples of data centers per region. We call them regions because they can consist of one or more data centers in each one of them. So we cover the globe, and obviously for the latency reasons, if you need to have something located closer to you, you would choose something physically closer. But if it doesn't necessarily have to be if the latency is not the defining factor for you, you might also shop around and find the cost for virtual machines cheaper in other regions, maybe new regions that we're spinning out. Just a high-level overview. We have multiple series of VMs. They do have letter in their name, and they help you to, this diagram should help you to break them up into specific workloads or buckets where we are best seeing their applicability, as well as the justification of the cost. So, for example, if it's storage, if it's database, you might benefit from the storage optimized virtual machines, which are LSV3 series, which is the most current one, which do have NVMe disks, and they do have a very high IOPS. But it doesn't, I mean, if you have a smaller database, or maybe if you are just doing development, the B series could be interesting because it's a burstable virtual machine, and it has lower cost, but its performance can burst when you need it, and you might not be using
I'm
it.
sorry to interrupt you, Arman. I think there are no slides displayed, and if you have a presentation, please do.
Are you not seeing my slides?
No, no one is seeing your slides because
sorry, you should.
Yeah, you haven't turned
Okay.
the present demo on. Yeah, thank you.
Can you see my slides now?
Yes.
All right, great. So sorry about that. So basically, you haven't missed much. It's been just 2 slides. So this is the slide that shows the map of our locations. And this is the slide that shows the types of the virtual machines that we have. So not much lost. Let's move forward. There are several types of constructs that we have that can help you to protect the virtual machines. Based on the construct that you choose, your SLA will change. And we have financially backed SLAs. And so depending on how you deploy the VM, you will get either 99.9, 99.95, or 99.99% SLA, and we'll cover those as we go forward. So the most basic concept is the availability sets that provides the high availability within a single data center, and we'll cover what that what those availability instruments are. Then as you move up, you have availability zones. Availability zones are multiple data centers within one region. They have their separate cooling, separate networking and power infrastructure, but they still physically located in one place. And then you have the region pairs, which do serve as the failback locations for when you do have the replication of your storage, for example, enabled. So in the high-level instruments, obviously for the disaster recovery of your VMs are instruments such as Azure Backup that allows you to do an async copies into remote locations, or you can have the ASR, which is an Azure Site Recovery Service, which not only does the replication of your virtual machine, but you can also script a recovery process. For example, if you need to bring up a cluster, and while you bring it up, you need to run some scripts to make sure that you have the consistent state of your application or of your data. So this is more details about the Azure availability zones. We did talk about them having 3 locations within a specific region. What some of the services are, they are zone redundant services that they have basically built-in redundancy into them. Other are zonal services, as you see, as you will see, and that's where you can specify that a particular VM goes, or a particular service goes into a particular zone. And so by choosing these different types of deployments, you can have finer level of control over the availability that you create for your application. We talked about this. Basically, it's just a more graphical view of replication between the region. This does also cover, this is more visual for, and we'll go into more details about what availability set does. And this, for example, shows that you can have availability sets within a zone, and then you can have multiple zones within a region, and that's just more graphic representation of this. And when you have your storage, for example, that you have, you have enabled replication for, it is given a specific type of storage. So you can have geo-redundant storage. So the most basic storage is LRS, which is local redundant storage, where you have 3 copies of your data locally. Then the next level up is or another type of the data protection that you can have is GRS, which is geo-redundant storage, where you have your data replicated to another paired region. As we'll see down in the presentation, there is also GZRS, which is the geo zone redundant storage, and there's a ZRS, which is zone redundant storage, which not only the GZRS not only replicates between the zones, but it also replicates to a pair region. So when you have a single VM that you deploy in your Azure subscription, when it uses premium storage, you are eligible for an SLA of 99.9. When you use availability sets, your SLA for at least 2 VMs that are deployed can go up to 99.95. And what the availability set is, it's a configuration of the fault domain and update domain. The fault domain is a separate rack that has independent power and network. And you can have several of such fault domains with an availability set. And then you have update domains, which do represent the automatic updates that might be carried out on the virtual machines. So, for example, there is an emergency patch that is being rolled out, and it will be applied to your virtual machine when it is available. So you will have a reboot, and then you basically, if you have multiple VMs and you place them into different update domains, you will be able to withstand those VMs being out of service, and your application would still be available. So when you deploy your VMs into an availability set, they basically end up in a combination of the update and the fault domain. In a combination of update and fault domain. And so when you do deploy your VMs in the availability set in the construct that you make, you're able to gain the SLA of 99.95%, which is higher than just deploying a single VM. And from the perspective of a critical business service, obviously it makes sense. So this is a more pictorial depiction of it's a further depiction of the zonal concept, where you have the VMs that are deployed in multiple zones. Basically, they get the SLAs of 99.99%. We do have the Azure VM selector. It's not specifically for resilience, but it's for you to more easily select the virtual machine that you will use for your application. That will help you to narrow down and to navigate between the different families of the virtual machines. An interesting service that we have recently released is called the Azure Chaos Studio. When you have designed your application and you really want to give it a spin for its availability and resilience, what you can do is you can create a set of scenarios where this chaos monkey will go and unplug things for you in a random fashion. And for example, you create the infrastructure within Azure, and then it will go out and it will shut a VM, or it will create a very high pressure on your I/O subsystem or on your CPU, and then you will see how your application performs. So it gives you a potential real-life simulation of your potential issues that you might have in the infrastructure, and then you can see how well you're ready for this. Again, this is just some of the more advanced features that we have brought out recently for your application to be available. Usage of these features of the, for example, snapshot, automatic snapshot copying, or the zonal redundancy. I would obviously look for the Postgres Pro folks to confirm that it is compatible with their offering, but it does exist as a capability where we can do the replication of the data between the zones, and it becomes available once the should a zone fail, for example. Again, this is what we talked about, is the geo-redundant zonal replication of the storage that can be done. So not only do you have replication within your within your zones, but it also does the cross geo replication. I think that's all that really is there to cover about the VM availability. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
Well, I don't see any new questions, and unfortunately, I don't see that any explanation of the previous question was provided. So I think if we don't have any incoming questions in a couple of minutes, we will just wrap up the event.
Okay, that's fantastic. So yeah, I think the OCI actually stands for Open Container Initiative. It's part of the, I think it's a open version of the OpenShift platform. And so if you do support Postgres Pro on OpenShift, that can probably answer this gentleman's question. Let's him asking the question.
Well, I see that another question showed up. I think this is for Alexei, because it covers our operating systems. So my guess is that it's about Postgres Pro offerings. So Alexei, can you answer?
Yeah. If the question is, do we support our Postgres Pro on OpenShift? Yes, we do, but we have to officially certify it, and I'm working on it right now.
Yeah, and the next question was about the operating systems. Yeah, I see that.
For our offers, we mostly use CentOS and Debian, and we are moving off CentOS because of the recent, let's say, issues when they decided to drop the support of previous CentOS edition, beginning with the CentOS version 8. So in this case, Debian operating system looks like more stable. So we are switching our offers and containers and virtual machines from CentOS to Debian. But for compatibility issues and for our customers who would like to use CentOS operating system, we will publish our offers both on CentOS and Debian operating system, as long as CentOS 7 operating system is supported.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions, so I think we are done. And thanks a lot to both Alexei and Roman for interesting presentations and answering all the questions. And of course, the recording and the slides from this event will become available shortly, and we will send them over to everyone who has registered for Postgres Pro on Azure 2022. And you can also subscribe to our Eventbrite account for further events. We are doing something interesting with folks from Ubuntu Canonical. Goodbye till the next events, and thanks everyone.
Thanks
a
you.
lot.
Cheers. Bye
Have a
bye.
wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.